Hey guys, it's Big E here with SYP Today podcast. Today we're going to be discussing the UFC 250 this weekend, as well as Henry Cejudo and John Jones. If you're watching the video version of this, I'm trying to minimize the glare that you see off my glasses. I fiddled with our webcam for a bit, got that set up, got on the laptop, so hopefully we're good to go. Hopefully we're ready. Hopefully this looks good. Got the backward hat. Also, I'm using Zoom because I find that it's easy to record myself and the audio, so it cuts the time I have to edit that and the video and et cetera, et cetera. Also, I need a Zoom background. I know this is like 3 months later and everybody's given up on Zoom already, but if you have an idea of what to use for a Zoom background, let me know. I've seen The Hallway from The Shining. I don't know if you've watched The Shining. Maybe that's like an SYP rewind we can do. Is The Shining with that hallway being used as a Zoom background, which would scare the shit out of me. And currently I'm recording this at 11:52 at night, so I don't want to get scared even more, even though I've seen The Shining a bunch of times. Like, I know how it plays out. I'm still a bit scared, but I know it's coming, if you know what I mean. Like, I know when the scary scenes are coming, so I can build up and prepare myself for them. So that would be a good Zoom background. I've seen people use Joe Exotic and the Tiger King. I haven't actually watched Tiger King, so I don't know if that's appropriate. From what I've heard, it sounds like it's a bad idea, so I'm probably going to pass on that. I've also seen the Windows XP home screen used as a Zoom background, which I think would be really cool, mostly because I'm a boomer and I can remember using that screen when I was a kid and having like the green field with the blue sky. You know what I'm talking about. You know what I'm talking about. Anyways, let's get to the UFC. So I'm going to discuss Henry Cejudo first. So Henry Cejudo, I wrote a whole bunch of notes for this, so I should be so prepared. You won't even know. Henry Cejudo, he retired after beating Dominic Cruz at the last UFC pay-per-view, UFC 249. He had an 18-2 MMA record. His losses were to Joseph Benavidez and Demetrius Johnson in 2016. Both of those were in 2016. You know, what's interesting about Cejudo retiring is that I think most people who've been paying attention know that Cejudo has been doing this as sort of a tactic to get more, because he wants more from the UFC. He wants more money. He's hoping to get a bigger contract. So Cejudo's kind of been threatening retirement, and Dana White has kind of just gone along with it. He's like, yeah, okay, you retire. Go for it, champ. Literally. Go for it, champ. Double champ, actually, because he's got flyweight and bantamweight. But Cejudo's only main evented one pay-per-view, and that was UFC 238 versus Marlon Moraes. Here's the thing. I don't think that Henry Cejudo's that big of a draw. I don't. Part of it because I think people love the heavyweights. They love, guys in upper weight classes. But, let me read off my notes here. So Henry Cejudo has 624,000 IG followers. Now, I know this is kind of, cherry picking a little bit on stats. But I think, your following on Instagram has a bit to do with your draw and appeal to people. I think that's kind of fair. Not entirely. Your IG is not your entire draw and appeal. It has some effect, especially with people, 40 and under. But, around in his division. So Moraes and Sterling each have about 100K IG followers. Peter Yan has 304,000. Corey Sandhagen, who's fighting this weekend, he's got 22,000. Jose Aldo's got 2.5 million. Cody Garbrandt's got 2.2 million. Dominic Cruz has 1.1 million. So that's in his division. So he's at the top, but he doesn't have the big following like the Aldos, like the Garbrandts, like the Cruzes. Okay, so let's look at other champs throughout the UFC and what their Instagram following is like. Alexander Volkanovski has 215,000. Okay, he's a relatively new champ. Not many people know about him. That's fair. Habib has got 20 million. All right, that's kind of unfair to compare Cejudo with a B. That's not fair for me. Kamaru Usman's got 1.2 million. Stylebender's got 2.6 million. Both of those guys have been champs shorter than Cejudo has, and they're, bigger stars than he is and probably will ever be. John Jones is 5.1. You can't really compare him. Stipe Miocic has 1.1 million. Heavyweight. Still has a bigger draw, I would think, than Cejudo. Francis Ngannou has 1.4 million. Keep in mind, Ngannou's got 1.4. Stipe has 1.1. This has nothing to do with Cejudo. I just want you to keep in mind when we talk about the heavyweight fights coming up. Daniel Cormier is 2.4 million. Even Justin Gaethje, who has the IC belt in the lightweight division, has 833,000. He's got over 200,000 more IG followers than Henry Cejudo. So talent-wise, he's a double champ. He's got an Olympic gold medal. Henry Cejudo might be worth what he's asking for talent-wise. But for Dana White in the UFC, he's not worth it from a draw perspective. You can't sell pay-per-views off of Henry Cejudo. Even in the last fight, he wasn't the main event. He was the co-main event. He was behind Gaethje and Ferguson in the main event. It was him and Cruz that were in the co-main event. So, yeah, he's not worth it for the UFC. I think selling-wise and money-wise, in terms of being a draw, because Henry Cejudo is not a draw. He's not a person that the public interest has or likes, I think. I could be completely wrong, but that's kind of the feeling I've got from Cejudo and the UFC, and they're both kind of dug in their heels, and Dana White is perfectly content to just say, go retire. You're just not worth it for us, Henry. You're just not worth what you're asking for. So, speaking of guys who have vacated their title, apparently John Jones has vacated his light heavyweight belt? ? So, Jones vacated the light heavyweight belt, reportedly wanting Deontay Wilder money, about 25 to 30 million, according to Dana White. And his last two fights have been extremely close. He had the unanimous decision victory over Dominic Reyes in February, which a lot of people thought Dominic Reyes won. And then he had the split decision win over Thiago Santos in July, which Santos was hurt. I could be completely wrong. I remember Santos being hurt and Jones not really attacking it like he should. He was kind of just, hitting him when needed, but not really being the aggressive type per se. Still got the win, but anyways, his last two fights have been not underwhelming, but kind of they've gone his way. They've gone in his favor when they certainly couldn't have. When the opposite could have happened. So you have to remember, Jones was arrested on March 26th, charged with DWI, negligent use of a firearm, driving with no proof of insurance, and an open container. So he accepted the plea. He served 4 days house arrest, 1 year of supervised probation, minimum 90 days outpatient therapy, 48 days community service. That's a lot. That he's going through quite a bit outside of the UFC in his own life. So for John Jones, I think this is bigger than fighting. I think this is just him trying to get his shit straight and trying to get back to normal. And right now is not the best time to do it, because of, COVID mostly, and that nobody's really living a normal life right now. I hope he is in a good headspace. I hope, obviously he's gone through a lot of shit. He's done a lot of shit, but I hope he's in a good headspace. And I hope he's in the right place. Because he's a talented fighter. He's absolutely incredibly talented. But there comes a point where he just has to get in the right frame of mind to just live as a human being. If he can't do that, then he shouldn't really be focusing on fighting or UFC or MMA or any of that sort of stuff. So I hope this goes well for John. I hope he, can take the time to, recover mentally, get himself in a good space, and hopefully he comes back to the UFC at some point. I think everybody would want that and would love to see that. So before I get into our UFC 250 preview, let's go through the mess that is the welterweight division. So Kamaru Usman is the champ. I don't know that you can make an argument. I think that Kamaru Usman is stalling. He's in the States. He's ready to fight. But it seems like he's maybe using stall tactics, and partially I think because the obvious fight is him versus Jorge Masvidal. Street Jesus versus Kamaru, I think it's the play. I think that's the move for the UFC at welterweight. However, I think Kamaru wanted to wait until his teammate Gilbert Burns beat Tyron Woodley last Saturday, so now they can set up Usman versus Burns. Their teammates, their friends, helping one another out, per se. All right. So now we're having stall tactics, I think, from Usman. I think he was waiting for this. He was waiting for Burns to beat Woodley. He did that. Now Burns is somehow ranked number one contender. We'll talk about him in a bit. So Woodley, I think, is putting on the same stall tactics. I seem to recall him using stall tactics leading up to the Colby Covington fight, where it took a lot longer than it should have to get the fight organized and actually done with. And that's the kind of the same thing that I think we're seeing with Kamaru versus anybody. I thought Kamaru versus Masvidal was the play, was the next, championship match. I don't know if Masvidal is still interested in Nate Diaz. He could be trying to run that back, which, I mean, you already beat him. You've already accomplished that. You don't need to prove yourself against him again. You need to prove yourself against Usman, I think. So I don't know why. I don't know who's putting that out there. Maybe, Masvidal did say after, the Diaz fight, hey, let's run it back. But I can't imagine Masvidal would really want to go up against Diaz a second time when he's got Kamaru right there for him. Let's talk about Gilbert Burns. He's now the number one contender. I mean, yeah, he was in control for 5 rounds against Tyron Woodley. I wouldn't put him as a number one contender. I don't think he's better than Covington. I don't think he's better than Masvidal. I don't think he's better than Leon Edwards. I don't. I think all three of those guys should be ahead of Gilbert Burns. Burns should not be fighting for a title. I don't believe. I think this is just a lot of recency bias we've seen with Gilbert Burns, but I believe that Usman versus Covington, I think Covington deserves a rematch. I wouldn't mind seeing that. That lasted 5 rounds. Masvidal versus Usman, and Leon Edwards should be thrown in the mix somewhere. I don't see Gilbert Burns' next opponent being Usman. I mean, it probably will be. For all intents and purposes, it probably will be. I just think it should be Edwards and Covington. I think that's the move for all those guys. Leon Edwards will, again, he's in a difficult situation. So with Leon Edwards, he's stuck in England. He's in England. He probably won't be able to come over for a while. So he can't do anything to help himself. It's not really his fault. It's just kind of, it is what it is. He can't come over. He can't fight. He's in no area to prepare to defend his spot because he just can't fight right now. So, he's got 8 straight wins. He's still ranked behind Tyron Woodley, and Woodley did not look good on Saturday. He did not look aggressive. He looked content to just take all the punches, take the hits. I almost wondered if he was questioning retirement, if he was almost questioning doing something else besides being in an octagon getting his ass kicked. That was my feeling about Woodley on Saturday. Like I think Woodley is closer to retirement than a championship. But Leon Edwards, he's got eight straight wins. I just, part of it too is that Leon Edwards is just not a draw here in the U.S. Covington's a draw. Masvidal's a draw. Gilbert Burns is starting to become a name. Leon Edwards isn't a draw either. So, Leon Edwards can't get no respect. Like, it's a Rodney Dangerfield thing. He's not getting any respect, and he's kind of in no man's land, unfortunately. Covington, Colby Covington, he's in a really good situation. I believe that Covington is probably Covington or Masvidal are either in the best, one of the best positions. I would say, Covington's up there. You can make the argument he should fight Usman. He could fight Burns, Masvidal, even Tyron Woodley. I think are options. I think you have a bunch of different ways. You can put Covington in and out of the the lineup of the rankings and slot him in for fights. He's in the States. He probably will fight soon. I'm kind of surprised he hasn't fought at some point. They're still waiting for Usman to make his decision. So, there's a good chance Covington might fight Masvidal next. Who knows? Covington is probably in, a great Covington is in a good spot. Covington's in a great spot. I can't make up my mind. Covington's in a great spot. He's got a lot of different options. He still has the attention of quite a few people because of his, Trump stuff. So, Covington's doing all right. Masvidal should be fighting Usman ASAP. I don't think there's any question. There's no reason to fight Diaz again. He's better than Gilbert Burns. Like, I think Masvidal versus Burns is a waste of time. And he's earned it. I think Masvidal has earned his championship fight. His last 3 wins have been against, Diaz, Ben Askren. Remember that Ben Askren knockout? And Darren Till. I think Masvidal has deserved, rightfully so, his title shot against Kamaru Usman at welterweight. So, it's just complicated. It's really tough, when individual politics and, shit like that gets in the way, and it just prevents you from doing your job. So that's why Leon Edwards is kind of in a shitty situation. Masvidal might be making things complicated. Usman's definitely making things complicated. It is what it is, I guess. You just got to take it with a grain of salt and run with it. Credit to Dana White for being able to plan and organize all of this. UFC 250. Decent card. There's no big guys. Light heavyweight is the heaviest fight we got, so it's a lot of bantamweights, featherweights. Going to be a lot of ground games, a lot of ground and pound. How good is your jiu-jitsu? How good is your Muay Thai? How good is your wrestling? That's what we're going to see this weekend. A lot of that. So we'll start with the prelims. UCA Formiga versus Alex Perez. Alex Perez is a minus 135 favorite. Again, with Cejudo gone, the flyweight is open. Anybody, can take that belt. Anybody can get there. I would say this fight is more critical for Formiga, considering he's 35 years old. He's on probably the back 9 of his career. He needs this more than Perez. So I'm going to say Perez wins, but this fight is much, much bigger for Formiga. That's in the early prelims. In the prelims, featherweight, you have Cody Stamann and Brian Kelleher. Kelleher has a plus 205 underdog status next to his name. Stamann moves up to featherweight for this. Not sure I liked this for him as a featherweight fight. It's tougher than a bantamweight fight, I think, for him. Question mark. At least winning would give Stamann more options, but are more options good? Sometimes they aren't. I think sometimes it's good to just go down a path, but I think in the case of Stamen, he's got more options. If it doesn't work in bantamweight, at least it's got featherweight. If it doesn't work in featherweight, at least it's got bantamweight. Both divisions are pretty crowded. I don't know if I pick one over the other. I said that, the featherweight, featherweight might be a bit more difficult than bantamweight. It's up in the air. You can make arguments for both, but either way, it's a long way to a title shot for both. Kelleher winning would create more chances or more chaos for me in featherweight. I'll take Stamen. Why not? I'll take Cody Stamen. That's that fight preview. Middleweight. This is a really weird fight. Ian Heinsch, Heinsch versus Gerald Meerschaert. Okay. Ian, I'm going to refer to him as Ian because I'm an Ian, and Ian's got to support Ian's, was originally in this fight, pulled out of this fight yesterday, and is now back in this fight. I don't know what's happening. Let's start with Meerschaert. He fights. He fights in an entertaining way. His last fight, he got a sub victory, submission victory, split decision loss, technical submission win, split decision loss. Guy's entertaining. I got to give it up to Meerschaert. He's the even, betting favorite. Well, not favorite, I guess underdog. I think Heinz was minus 130. Ian's minus 130. This is the first fight of a new 4-fight contract for Ian. He's lost his last 2 fights via unanimous decision, so he needs this victory. I'm going to say this is a mismatch if Meerschaert can get on the ground, if he can work it. Heinz, Ian likes to stand it up. He's more of a boxing type. I'm not saying this about myself. I'm saying this about the fighter. More of a boxing type, more of a stand-up guy. If Meerschaert could get it on the ground and he can make him work there, he should get the victory. Man, look at me just blow by this stuff. I am on a roll here. All right. That was my preview pretty much of the prelims. There's no other prelim fight really. I don't think really worth watching. Main card preview. No major stars except for Amanda Nunes, who I don't know if she's a huge star. I don't know if she's an elite star, but definitely well known. Bantamweight. Eddie Wineland versus Sean O'Malley. O'Malley is a minus 500 favorite. O'Malley has an undefeated record in the UFC. 3-0, 2 unanimous decisions. One performance of the night at UFC 248, his TKO over Jose Canores. My spelling is awful. Wineland's first fight since June 2019, so about a year. He usually fights once a year, so he's getting his once-a-year fight. There you go. I expect a lot of groundwork with O'Malley's, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, Wineland's wrestling. I'm going to take O'Malley. He's a younger guy. I like it. I like his chances to win more. Could go either way. I like O'Malley. I'm going to give it to the younger guy. He's the favorite. That's my prediction in that fight. Welterweight. Neil Magny versus Anthony Rocco Martin. Rocco Martin is plus 115 underdog. Not easy being a welterweight. Again, we discussed it earlier with how crowded the top of that division is. Both guys are extremely talented Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu artists. Magny has the physical advantages over Rocco Martin. He's got the height, he's got the reach, he's got the leg reach. I'm gonna take Magny. I'm gonna take Magny with the physical advantages. Again, really tough being a welterweight, which is how tough the top of the division is. But yeah, you got to keep fighting, you got to keep working. It'll all work out. And then bantamweight, you got Aljamain Sterling versus Corey Sandhagen. Minus 110 favorite. Sandhagen's becoming a star in the UFC. He's 5-0 in the UFC. He beat Asenseu last time, who's fighting later on. Really good wins for Sterling as well. He's beat Pedro Munoz, Rivera, Corey Stamen, he's got some really good wins as well. So both of these guys are no pushovers. Sterling should probably be fighting for that bantamweight belt, and you can make an argument to Sandhagen if he wins, he should be fighting for that belt next too. You can make that argument. That's a fair argument to make. And especially with Cejudo gone, it's wide open. It's wide open as to who can get that belt. And there's a bunch of guys at the top who can get it. This has fight of the night potential, Sterling versus Sandhagen. And I don't know why this fight isn't ahead of Asuncio and Cody Garbrandt, which is the next fight after this. I don't get it. These guys are younger guys. They're going to be fighting for the belt. This other fight, Asuncio and Garbrandt, they're not going to fight for the belt right now. Neither of those guys are really, championship contenders. So why not have Sterling versus Sandhagen, which guys are actually going to be fighting for a potential belt in their next fight? I don't know. I'm going to take Corey Sandhagen, split decision. It's a really tough one. This is a toss-up. I wouldn't be surprised if Sterling wins, but I got Sandhagen winning in a split decision. It's just so close with this guy, with these fights. All right, another bantamweight, Rafael Assunção versus Cody Garbrandt. Garbrandt, minus 150 favorite. Are both fighters past their prime? Assunção has lost his last two fights, and he lost to Sandhagen, and he got a sub loss to Marlon Moraes. So I don't know if the 37-year-old doesn't have it anymore. Cody Garbrandt is just 28, but he's lost his last three fights. He got knocked out by Pedro Munoz, and then back-to-back TKOs by TJ Dillashaw. TJ Dillashaw, that talk about a guy who's going through something right now. Garbrandt's taller. He's 5'8" over, Assunção's 5'5", but Assunção's got the reach at 66.5 inches to 65.5 inches. Again, another close fight. I don't know why this fight is, the co-main event, why it's, second to last fight of the night. I personally would much rather watch Aljamain Sterling and Corey Sandhagen than Assunção and Garbrandt. I think that's fair. I think most UFC fighters, UFC fans would like to see that. MMA fans, I think, would prefer to see that. But, hey, what do I know? I'm not the one making these fights. Again, credit to Dana White for doing all this during a pandemic. Doing a pretty good job. By the way, in case I didn't mention, all these fights are taking place at the UFC Apex in Vegas this weekend. Smaller ring. Made Tyron Woodley fight more than he would have. That's actually a lie. He did not fight that well. He was not that competitive. Women's featherweight. This is the fight of the night, I think. Main event. Amanda Nunes versus Felicia Spencer. Felicia Spencer is a plus 425 underdog. Nunes is minus 600. Felicia Spencer's last fight was a slightly unimpressive win. She did not look great. Here's the thing. She's growing. She's getting better as a fighter. But her last fight was by no means a walk in the park. She still, had to be competitive. And against, Zara Fame dos Santos, who's not really a title contender right now, and she even didn't look that comfortable against Spencer. Not because Spencer was doing anything really challenging or unorthodox. She just didn't look, to myself, she did not look comfortable in the ring. Spencer was taking advantage of that and doing the best she could. But here's the, what's the word here? Here's the switcheroo, I guess, almost, or, the inside look. Amanda Nunes dominated. I have it all, I don't know if you can read this in capital letters. Dominated Chris Cyborg in 2018. In Cyborg's next fight against Felicia Spencer, it was a unanimous decision victory in Edmonton, in Canada, Spencer's home country. and it was not close. It was not close. Cyborg dominated Felicia Spencer. Felicia Spencer is growing and she's getting better, but this is just not her fight. She is going to get outworked, outmatched. This is going to be unfair. Okay, you know what Amanda Nunes is better at? She's quicker. She's more agile. She's more powerful, and she's more explosive. If you watch Amanda Nunes and Chris Cyborg, you'll know what I'm talking about. Powerful right hooks. Just quick. Speed, gets in and out. It moves out of the way, in defense of avoiding punches. Felicia Spencer is not ready for this. She will not be ready whatsoever. I guarantee it. For Felicia Spencer to win this fight, I think she has to attack Nunes. I think she just can't. She can't let Nunes be in control of the fight. You got to go after. You got to make her uncomfortable, and you got to fight her. I don't care if it's standing up or on the ground. Whatever you feel more comfortable with, you got to do. And that's what Spencer has to do if she's going to win this fight. She cannot be content and just stand around and Mayweather, running around the ring. She has to go after her. That's my hot take. That's, I think, my key to victory and success if you're Felicia Spencer. Now, in women's UFC, there's a lack of parity. And I think that speaks to the talent of each champion, like Nunes, Valentina Shevchenko, Zhang Weili. All of them are incredible fighters. Incredible. They are the best at what they do. Now, there are up-and-comers, but they aren't ready yet. And that is Felicia Spencer. That is Aspen Ladd, Tatiana Suarez, Joan Calderwood. All four of those female fighters are terrific fighters, wonderful fighters. They're just not ready right now. Like Felicia Spencer, they're giving her title shot way too early. And that's because they don't have the level of competition in featherweight, in UFC, in women's featherweight. There isn't that competition, so you give Spencer the early, title fight, and maybe she can learn and she can progress and be, a competitive championship fighter down the line. But it's just right now it's way too early and will be, again, almost unfair to Spencer this weekend, who probably, I would not be shocked if she lost in the first round. I think that's, if you're going to gamble some money, I would gamble that Nunes is going to beat her in the first round, submission or knockout, one or the other. I'm going with Nunes all the way this weekend. So that's my quick UFC 250 preview. My thoughts on some UFC headlines, including Henry Cejudo, John Jones. I hope you enjoy the fights this weekend. There should be some pretty good ones. Thank you very much for listening. We greatly appreciate it. Make sure, if you haven't yet, go check out the SYP Summer Olympics. Sign up. We got those coming July 31st in Squamish, BC. Also, be sure to check out SYP 2020 NHL Draft Lottery live stream. That will be on our YouTube channel June 26th at TBA. I'm assuming it's 4 p.m. But watch it. You get to see me cry potentially, and that could be fun. Thank you again very much for listening. We greatly appreciate it. I hope you have a good rest of your day, night, whenever you listen, and enjoy the fights this weekend, everyone. Peace out.